Here.
Supervisor Barnhart,
Here.
Supervisor Borst,
Here.
Supervisor Hayes,
Here.
Supervisor Ferrara,
Here.
Supervisor Cronenwetter, Supervisor Reinhardt,
Here.
Supervisor Partee,
Here.
Supervisor Heisen,
Here.
Supervisor Dontrout,
Here.
Supervisor Enslow,
Here.
Supervisor Shipley.
Here.
For the record, Supervisor Cronenwetter is participating in the meeting telephonically, and you have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you have the TV on, Mike? Who's on?
I think so, let me double check.
Anybody hear me there, Bob?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Coming in clear.
Now we're seeing if the TV is on, YouTube.
We hear you good, Paul.
Okay, thanks, that's actually kind of me out.
Thank you, man. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Good.
Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please be seated. Next up, we have a public hearing on the Seneca County Ag Enhancement and Farmland Protection Plan. We have a motion to go into
I'll make the motion.
Second.
a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. The public hearing is now open. Does anybody like to address the board? Jill would, okay.
All right, yeah, Jill Henry with the Director of Planning for Seneca County. Yes, I just wanted to step up and make you aware that on your desks, there is a brief summary handout of the plan. Again, and I also wanted to provide you a quick update, but anyways, there's also copies here for the public if anyone's interested. But yeah, the plan basically talked about the mission of the ag plan, that it was to provide, information and strategies that in the short and long term can enhance the economic success of agriculture in Seneca County. The next page just discusses the vision of the future of agriculture in Seneca County, that it will continue to play a predominant role, and that we hope that as we move forward, residents and communities will understand the importance of agriculture and support different actions to enhance its profitability and resiliency in the future. There's also a little summary of what the content of the plan is. The next pages cover some of the highlights of some of the priority recommendations that are made into the plan. I won't go into any of those in detail. It also talks about what the goal of agriculture is. Ultimately, it's, to expand funding opportunities to agencies that support agriculture. We want to expand economic and educational opportunities to engage skilled labor and attract new and young farmers to the county. We were interested in protecting farmland utilization. We want to be an advocate to help the conversation and reduce adverse farm versus non-farm interactions. We want to propose environmental sustainability of farms and promote farm-friendly local regulations. The final page was just to address, you had previously asked what would be the next steps if the plan was approved, and these are some of the implementations plans. So we would definitely distribute, we would provide information on our website. The Agriculture Enhancement Board is willing to take implementation leadership. We'll work with the following different agencies, and we'll develop a work plan and task lists, and we'll start working through who will implement certain strategies in the plan. And I also want to let you know that the Ag Enhancement Board did meet on February 2nd, and through resolution did approve the plan themselves and make recommendation for Seneca County's adoption of it. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Jill?
Jill, I can't recall. Was there a timeline that went like this, like your rollout and stuff like that? Or
Implementation of the plan?
right?
Well, right now, with its adoption, it'll go to the state ag and markets. They'll need to review and make, final approval of the plan. But we're basically going to, with the adoption here, start moving into working with the Ag Enhancement Board, right away. I think they're very eager and they're supporting the plan and wanting to make sure that we start making their committees and sort of, like you said, make some tasks and identifying those agencies that would lead in the implementation of those tasks.
Okay, and then just one more. If we were interested in having like a brief presentation at the town level, would we work with you, or would we like see some of the folks who are part of the plan making, or?
Certainly contact the planning office, and we will
Okay.
put you in contact. Harriet Haynes actually is here tonight. She's our senior planner, and she's been, basically fundamental in trying to
Okay.
here, so she would definitely be able to support.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Kyle's got his hand up.
A little bit of a, after reading this over, it reminds me of before my public service, I have a little bit of a bone to pick with the county. I saw this strategy D2, support and expand agricultural education in local school districts with local youth. When I worked in the private sector, Seneca County has a program that I believe employs youth in the summertime and pays most of the wages, if not all of the wages. Are you familiar with that?
Somewhat, yeah.
I can't remember what department or what, how it fell within workforce.
Bureau.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
So at the, I think back in 2017, I worked at a winery. We were approached, I worked for a vineyard and a winery, and we were approached about the program by the county. We applied for the program to have some ag labor and some other labor around the site, and we were denied because it's an alcoholic establishment. And I tried to make the case to say, no, we're a farm. It's a farm winery, and look at our license. And so now I see this, and it brings back that memory. So I just wanted to sort of pick that bone publicly and say, if we're going to support the expansion of agricultural education in school districts with local youth, we should certainly pay attention to being able to expand that program and not be so picky. There are 14, 15, 16-year-olds that work in restaurants and wine glasses and bottles and whatnot. I think we can handle some students learning on the farm.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
That's sufficient to talk, is this now or later?
Later.
Okay, thank you.
Where's your Hawaiian shirt? I don't recognize you.
Is that golfing?
We got a first and we got a second?
Yeah, there was
Those
one.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing now closed. Next up is presentations. Rich Rickey, Seneca County Off-Track Betting Director. Welcome. You might want to tell some new board members, they may not know what OTB is or who you are. I can't believe that.
No, well, no, thank you for bearing with me. Basically, this evening, what you have in front of you is a resolution in opposition to a Senate bill. It's S7855, and it relates to the membership and to the ownership of off-track betting. Off-track betting is currently owned and operated by 15 counties and 2 municipalities, the city of Rochester and the city of Buffalo. It was established, I don't have that in front of me, but I believe it was established in 1973 or 75. We were a part of it, and over the course of these years, it cost $8,000 back then for the county to get involved in this enterprise. That money was paid back rapidly. To date, we brought back to the county $3 million. May not seem like much, but $3 million is a lot of money in the course of those years for a county such as ours. There are counties that get less than ours, and there are counties that get a heck of a lot more than we do. As a side note, in 2021, which is really interesting, we're going at a rate that I find kind of hard to believe, because 2021 will bring in something like somewhere in the vicinity of $75,000 to the county in 2021. Now, when you stop and think that January, February, and March, we were still in this COVID phase, it's amazing that we had that much money generated. If things continue to go the way they're going, we're talking a lot of money that's going to be brought back to Seneca County. However, there is a problem. I mean, I could get into the long and the short of it and how it started and what's going on, but there's a Senator Kennedy in the Buffalo area who has this proposal. And what this proposal does, it takes away from the counties, in our case, Seneca County has 1 vote. There's 17 votes, and when we vote, everyone gets a vote. In this particular bill, just to give you an idea of what it entails, if this were to pass, Monroe, Wyoming, and Orleans County would each get 1 vote. Chautauqua, Cayuga, Genesee, Livingston, Schuyler, and Seneca together get 1 vote. Erie would get 4 votes. Niagara would get 1 vote. Then he lumps 3 counties together, Oswego, Cattaraugus, and Wayne for 1 vote. And then the city of Buffalo and the city of Rochester, 1 vote. Now that breaks down now to 15. That really gives Erie 4 votes. They're tied in, of course, with the city of Buffalo and Niagara. Now you have 6 votes. But what makes this extremely interesting is part of this proposal is that the governor of the state would have a vote. The head of the assembly would have a vote, New York State Assembly, and the head of the New York State Senate would have a vote. So if you couple Niagara with Erie, Buffalo, and Niagara County with those 3 votes, you now have a grand total of 9. They can take this money, they can make a vote and do it with it as they please. They could sell this particular corporation, they could give the corporation away. They would have complete control, and we, in our particular case, the 6 counties, which we are one of, would have 1 vote, period, as opposed to having 1 vote now. Now it's just a majority rule with 17. It would be a majority rule with 15. But Erie County having the vast majority of it. This hurts us, it hurts us bad. It's really politically oriented, and I can look at it from both sides. This was started, and I don't mind bringing it up. There was a man that interviewed for the position of director, I think it was about 5 years ago. He was a former New York State senator from this particular county, Mr. Maziar. He came and he was a Republican, and he came to interview. And to be perfectly honest, he wasn't a good candidate, in my opinion. I voted against him. We hired someone else, and he's done a fantastic job. He has really come after us tooth and nail. He's reported OTB for all kinds of unsavory behavior, all kinds of chicanery. It got to the point where in one particular meeting we were all talking, and somebody brought up, he says, well, let's have an investigation, and let's do it ourselves. I didn't make the motion, but I second the motion. I said, bring in the comptroller's office, bring in the attorney general. There's nothing to hide here. There's nothing to hide. Yes, were there things found after 2 years of this crazy investigation, which produced literally nothing? I'll tell you what they found. The way we were handling our cars and mileage could have been handled better. But there was nothing really fraudulent. The way, if you're a heavy bettor, what we do is you have box seats at either the Sabres games or at the Buffalo Bills games, and you're treated like a king. And one individual, it could be, I never went, by the way, but one individual assigned to go with this group to any one of these events, you would act like a waiter or a waitress, and you would cater to their every whim. Well, at any rate, there was a few abuses in that where people took their own family members, but that was the extent of it. All of this, so now the deal is Maziar and these other people want the power back. They created this thing that really had no merit whatsoever. And now it was 9 years ago, it was to the point that we didn't know if OTB was going to make it. There was literally, we were really failing. Right now, it's really, we have the racetrack we brought up. Now we cater weddings. We have 13 concerts scheduled. We bought a hotel. It's a destination point. And it's going to continue to bring money into Seneca County. And I'm telling you, this is, hopefully, everybody's taking this lightly. But if it passes, don't expect to get much, because there's a plan behind it, period. So I'm just encouraging you to please, I forget, Dave, what section is it that?
Rule 29.
Rule 29. If you could pass that this evening, we're going to submit all of these by the first week in March to so far 5 counties. People are meeting. We're all going to, every county and municipality is going to meet. They have similar proposals, such as this one. And I encourage you, please, to vote yes. If you have any questions regarding it, I'll try to answer them. I don't have all the answers, but I'll try.
How do 6 counties have one vote? How do you decide how the vote would be?
How do you decide who the representative's going to be, too? Yeah. That's the other deal. And, we're being, like, there's 2 counties that don't have as much population as Seneca that are below us, and we don't have a heck of a lot of clout there. I think Wyoming and Orleans are the 2 counties that receive less monies than us. And the crazy part of it all is when you look at, if you take Erie County in 2021, they received $61 million from OTB. It's amazing that Erie County wants 4 votes, but they're only willing to give the city of Rochester 1 vote. They get 20 million. They only want to give the county of Monroe, who gets 40 million, 1 vote. This is a plan where they will have complete control. It's as simple as that if this goes through. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, hopefully you all vote against this. We'll present it, send it all into the governor and to the assembly and to the Senate, and hopefully it'll be dead on arrival. So that's.
Any questions for Rich?
I'll just say that I'm feeling particularly inspired to eliminate weighted voting and go to a 1 town, 1 vote, 1 county, 1 vote, right?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is a petitioner, Peter Pontius, Waterloo. Facebook mime, pronounce that right? Meme, I thought. I was gonna say it wrong.
Would have rather seen mimes, though. That would have been nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No matter how many times I public speak, I still get nervous, so bear with me. Put this in gear first. There we go. I'm here to talk about Mr. Trout's, Jeff Trout's post, which I found very offensive. But before I get into that,
Hey, wrong Trout.
is it wrong one?
Yeah.
You got the wrong one. Yeah.
Well, I'll leave it.
That's what I thought.
I think you all know what I mean. I hope you all know what I
You
mean.
want to take off the
Which,
mask?
by the way, I wouldn't know from Jesus, to be honest with you.
You want to take off the mask to speak if you want.
Want me to? I didn't.
Want to.
Whatever y'all want.
I'm not telling you to.
Thank you. I've been married 44 years. I just do what I'm told. I've posted and published some pretty negative things about politicians, both local and national. And I stand behind everything I've ever written. I will continue to. The difference with my posts is that I only represent myself and my reputation and my business, of which I have lost some because of my opinions. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I will always speak for what I believe in. Mr. Trout has been elected to a position of public trust and represents this board and the residents of this county, not just himself. As I speak, I want you to think about this. Do people usually repost things that they disagree with? Have you ever posted something you disagree with without stating in some way you disagree with it? I doubt it. We repost things that we agree with, and we want other people to see. My purpose of being here tonight is to go on the record as believing that this board's inaction regarding Mr. Trout's Facebook post is a dereliction of duty. You've all been elected to and accepted positions of public trust and responsibility. Public trust and responsibility. Your inaction respected neither. I do, however, want to state that those of you who did make statements stating your disapproval of Mr. Trout's post and judgment certainly have my respect. You took a position that, given this county's politics, may not have been popular, but was certainly right. The post in question stated the warning signs of white supremacy. White supremacy, which means what? White people are better than other people. White people are better than minorities. That's what supremacy means. Here's what it said. Full-time employment. Obviously a typical white thing. I'm not sure I know any minorities with full-time work, I guess. Literacy, well, God knows you can't read. Professional or technical degree. Regular church or temple attendance, which is amazing because white supremacists tend to not really care for Jews, last I checked. Auto insurance. Good credit rating. No criminal record. I don't think there's any white supremacists that I know of who've been arrested. Wait, maybe there's a few from January 6th. I'm not sure, maybe. Or the ones that burned down the churches and blew up the synagogues, maybe? I'm not sure, maybe. And distrusts the government. Well, basically, I guess by this, I'm a white supremacist. Because I got all of them. But I can tell you I'm not. And I'm ashamed of my white peers who are. Mr. Trout, and some of you on this board stated that this is political satire. I have published political satire and cartoons in the past. The only place this would be seen as political satire would be in the websites managed by groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, the Neo-Confederacy, the Neo-Nazis, the racist skinheads, Christian Identity, among other many shameful hate speech sites masquerading as patriotic. A rather popular thing to do these days. I love and I respect quality satire, not so much hate speech, which is exactly what this is. There is nothing political about it. I would beg any of you to go through this. See anything political about it. It's outright racist. By definition, hate speech is usually thought to include communications of animosity or disparagement of an individual or a group on account of a group characteristic, such as race, color, national origin, sex, disability, religion, or sexual orientation. To pretend this is not hate speech because it does not overtly state negative traits of minorities. Glad to see people are paying attention. Is nothing more than willful ignorance.
Yeah, 2 more minutes, okay? You've gone over already.
I had 5 minutes, right?
Oh, you're over 5.
Well, I speak slow.
You're cruising in on 10. But you got,
I think my predecessor had more than 5 too.
well, you were the presenter.
Okay. Now you screwed me up.
Well,
All right. Anyways, it is willful ignorance. It would be bad enough if it said warning signs of white supremacist, as that would be traits of an individual person or a group of like-minded people. By titling it warning signs of white supremacy, it says that these are the reasons that white people are supreme or better than non-whites. It infers very obviously that these are some of the traits that make white people more responsible and better citizens because we possess these favorable traits, implying others don't. That one word supremacy, or opposed to supremacist, as opposed to supremacist, makes a great deal of difference. Supremacy means everyone white is better than. Supremacist is individual. I have absolutely nothing against Mr. Trout, and I imagine he's a nice man. As much as this all revolves around his unfortunate post, it is the elected representatives board that I am disappointed in. Your silence on this issue was deafening. Politicians who remain silent in response to hate speech do it for one of two reasons. They agree with the post, or their cowardice gets in the way of standing up for what is right. I view this unwillingness to stand up for what is right as merely whitewashing or denying the truth, a practice which has become the norm in certain political circles. You have remained silent. Those of you who remain silent will have to decide for yourselves whether you agree with the post or you just don't have the courage to stand up for what is right. But please remember, you represent all Seneca County residents, not some political ideology, I hope. In closing, my father worked for this county for 25 years as the director of probation. He was in the first troops to liberate Dachau, the concentration camp. After witnessing man's inhumanity to man, as he put it in a letter to his parents, he was sure that all of his children were raised under the truism, all it takes for evil to grow is for good people to say nothing, much like this board did. Thus far, this board has said nothing. I hope you'll realize that political allegiance is the enemy of the common good, which is what you were all elected to represent and protect. And I think you need to ask yourselves, are you doing that? And do we want someone with these values to be representing everyone, black, white, whatever, of this county? I, for one, don't. I would be glad to take questions or comments. I didn't think there'd be any. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, open privilege of the floor. Anybody here to address the board? 3 minutes. Okay. Very good. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes of January 11th, 2022, board meeting.
I'll make a motion.
A motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Minutes approved. Board sustaining committees, mental health services, Supervisor Partee.
On the agenda tonight, there's one resolution approving the 2022 appointments made by the Committee Services Board. Pat Plyder as CSB Chair and temporary Chair of the Alcohol and Substance Abuse Subcommittee. Susan Ottenweiler of the Mental Health Subcommittee Chair and CSB Vice Chair. Dr. Joseph Lorenzetti, Alcohol and Substance Abuse Subcommittee Vice Chair. And Stanley Hatch as the OPWDD Subcommittee Chair. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Supervisor Partee. Next up, Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism, Supervisor Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism has 9 resolutions in front of this board tonight. Many of them are appointments to a number of local community boards. We also have the acceptance of a CDBG planning grant and the adoption of the Agricultural Enhancement and Farmland Protection Plan. That's all.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Barnhart. Next up, Public Health Services, Supervisor Borst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Health Services Committee met on January 25th. We have one resolution tonight, reappointing Dr. Timothy Ryan and Dr. Grace Fryer to the Seneca County Board of Health, and that is it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Borst. Next up, Public Safety, Supervisor Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met on January 25th, and there will be 3 issues coming before the board tonight. The first will be the purchase of 14 tasers for the Sheriff's Office, and the second will be applying for 2 separate grants out of emergency management.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Reinhardt. Next up, Personnel, Supervisor Ferrara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I give a brief overview of our committee, I need to apologize to the County Board of Supervisors and the people of Seneca Falls. Apparently, a month ago, before the meeting started, we were live on our video and broadcast, and I was in discussion with another person, and I used an inappropriate word that went public, so I want to apologize apologize to everyone for that. I'm not saying I don't swear now and then, but I know better when it's in a public setting, so apologize.
Okay, thank you.
The Personnel Committee has two policies that will be being revised, both related to COVID. One was approved by the Personnel Committee, and one will come under a Rule 29 under new business. We also have 5 other items. Appoint Scott King as Director of Public Health, and appoint Laura Granger as Personnel Officer, both with our thanks to them. Reclassification of some positions. I'm going to ask to remove and return to committee one item on the agenda, and we have multiple refill positions to look at tonight. And that's all I have, sir.
Very good, Supervisor Farrar. Next up, Water and Sewer Treatment Management and Operations, Supervisor Hayes.
Thank you. We have nothing for, no resolutions this month. We did get an update though from the county manager on an I&I study that the grant was not awarded for the I&I study. Pending WIA grants for the Willard and 5 Points upgrade. No answers from docs on the amount of money that will be contributed to the upgrades of the sewer plants. Crafting an agreement for the Water and Sewer Authority study with MRB after the county manager receives the draft. We'll send it out to all the board members so everybody can get a chance to look at it. This is at least an 8-month process. It will involve intermunicipal meetings with towns and villages. Waterloo contract for the water is going well, and the Hillside plant needs to be inspected until it is demoed. Yaws is being paid $5,900 a month to maintain the inspections while the demolition plan is ever evolving. That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Hayes. Indian Affairs, Supervisor Shipley.
Thank you, Chairman Heisen. During the Indian Affairs Committee meeting of Tuesday, 1/25, the following topics were discussed. The town of Seneca Falls held a special meeting on Monday, 1/24, regarding the Cayuga Indian Tribe local activities. Supervisor Farrar gave a brief report. The Cayuga Unity Council leadership held a press conference on Sunday, 1/23. Their notification email was late and gave less than a day's notice of the press conference, which is the reason why only a few members of the Board of Supervisors watched this broadcast that really did not offer any new details or plans regarding their leadership dispute, other than they are asking President Biden to settle their leadership dispute. Under new business, as discussed with Chairman Heisen, we desire to reach out to Senator Schumer and ask him to host another meeting with the Undersecretary to the BIA to discuss the Cayuga's leadership dispute and the status of any land in the federal trust application by the BIA currently recognized leader for the Cayuga Indians. We will advise the board on any potential response from the BIA. Supervisor Jeff Trout commented on the $1 million purchase of a gas station as discussed that was assessed for $200,000. That money could have been used on the Cayuga people, and we all agreed. County Attorney Ettman commented on Cayuga County Land and New Trust reconsideration. They, let's see, I lost my notes. The Cayuga Nation is not proposing any lands currently in Seneca County for reconsideration. That's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Supervisor Shipley. Next up, Technology, Supervisor Burnell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Technology Committee, Standing Committee approved renewing the contract we have with Telecom for the purchase of phone systems for $20,508. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Burnell. Environmental Affairs, Supervisor Cronoletter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tried to get in, all the committee members' hands, 2 proposals for a solid waste, management plan. We sent out RFPs and we have a plan from B&L, Barnhart, and then another group, from Genesee County, made a conglomeration of, different organizations. So I hope everybody on the committee can review these before our committee meeting on the 4th Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have a environmental committee meeting at say 5 o'clock before our regular committee meetings and to discuss this and hopefully pick somebody to move forward with a solid waste management plan.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
Okay, very good. We heard you loud and clear. Thank you, Supervisor Cronin. Public Works, Supervisor Don Trout.
Nothing to report outside the resolutions that'll follow later tonight.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Trout. Mental Health Services, are we doing that? And I think you got that wrong, Margaret.
What's that, sir?
Supervisor Enslow, supposed to be.
Yes, Human Services.
Human Services?
Supervisor Enzo.
Mhm, okay.
I'm sorry, did I take it wrong?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Human Services Committee just has the resolutions as they're written, and there's no other new business.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Enslow. Finance, Assessment, and Insurance, Supervisor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chairman Heisen. Finance, Assessment, and Insurance has 2 resolutions tonight. The one is proposals for accounting firm to audit the financial statements, and I might ask for support to send that back to committee. There's been some talk, and we'd like to maybe interview a few of the vendors before we make a final decision. So we'll stay tuned on that one, but that's it.
Okay, Supervisor Reynolds. Okay, report of special committees. Anybody out there have any reports for special committees?
Are we gonna talk about the 2 openings on the IDA board?
I'm going to, yeah.
Okay, that nothing else happened at that meeting, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Chairman's remarks, that's right up to me. I'm gonna make this comment here that I am creating and appointing a special committee on broadband implementation and appointing Supervisor Hayes, Partee, and Barnhart. I think Ms. Partee talked to Mitch about the need for having to get this thing moving, so I took her advice and started this committee. And they will work with county staff, the Regional Planning Council, and other stakeholders to move ahead much-needed broadband improvements in the county. So they can get going whenever you want to. Next up, I also have been in contact with the IDA Board Chair, Steve Brusso. We'll be establishing an interview committee to review candidates and nominations for vacancies on the IDA Board. I'm appointing Supervisor Barnhart, Supervisor Partee, and myself, and Mitch Rowe as the county board representatives to this committee. I look forward to strengthening our relationship with the IDA and identifying quality candidates to serve in this important role. And the IDA has come up with 4 names, which is Tom Kime, Bruce Murray, and Steve Brusso, as well as Sarah Davis. So and they are thinking of giving people a couple of weeks to apply, so maybe a deadline of March 4th. And that'll give them approximately 2.5 weeks to apply. And we'll aim to do interviews hopefully shortly thereafter, so the BOS committee can do the appointments at the end of the month in March with full BOS approval in early April. So I guess that answers your question, Don. So we've got 8 people that'll do the interviews. Sarah Davis will send out the advertisement. It's basically the same advertisement what we did a couple years ago. So with the policies here, so we'll wait for that to happen then.
Mr. Chairman, could you just repeat the names? You said there were 4 candidates?
No, not candidates. 4 members of the IDA board will be.
Oh, okay, now I got you. All right, thank you. Yep.
No candidates
You want
yet.
the names
Gotcha.
again?
Okay. What's that?
You want the names again?
No, I've got that. I'm good.
Tom Kine, Bruce Murray, Steve Brusso and Sarah Davis.
Got them anyway, Jeff, just because you didn't want them.
Well, they're already on the board, so they aren't candidates.
Gotcha, I needed to clarify, thank you, because I thought they were, but, yeah.
Okay. And that's it. Next up is county manager remarks.
I don't have anything tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. County attorney's remarks.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Okay, thank you. Communications.
Communications number 8 through 13 have been received and filed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is resolutions. My page here. Finance assessment insurance, resolution number 14, Supervisor Reynolds.
Thank you, Chairman Heisen. Board of Supervisors authorize amendments to the 2021 Seneca County budget.
Motion.
Motion. Got a second?
Second.
Got a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 15.
Okay, this is the one where we looking for maybe a amendment or send it back to committee. Acceptance of proposals for the audit for financial records for Seneca County.
Motion. Second.
Got a motion, your motion to go ahead?
We got to get it on the table so we can send it back.
Table and then.
Okay. You got a second there?
Yeah, I make the motion that we consider sending this back to committee for the purpose that Finance Chair Reynolds proposed.
Support.
Second on that now, okay. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
What? I didn't hear that.
Just Mike opposes.
One opposed. Okay.
Nay. No.
Okay,
Nada.
so noted then.
9.
I don't think you need a roll call. I think it's pretty much 13-1.
Okay,
Oh, I feel that, Mike.
carried, sent back to committee. Next up, number 14, no, 15, 16, excuse me. Human Services, Supervisor Enslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman authorized to sign Office for the Aging annual update to 4-year plan for services and funding applications.
Support.
A second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 17.
Supervisors approve Seneca County Division of Human Services to submit plan and accept funds for New York State Rental Supplement Program.
Support. Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 18.
Seneca County Manager to sign contract for county 2022 education contract between Finger Lakes Community College and Seneca County Division of Human Services for Education Coordination Services.
Support.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Supervisor Enslow. Next up, Public Works, Supervisor Trout.
Highway
19.
Superintendent authorized to sign shared service agreement for emergency assistance.
Support.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 20.
Authorization to accept Bridge New York funds for the superstructure replacement of Marshall Road Bridge.
Support.
Second.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 21.
Authorization for additional construction costs for Division of Human Services Phase 2 construction project.
Support.
There. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Supervisor Trout. Next up, Information Technology, number 22, Supervisor Burnell.
Supervisor authorize renewal of the maintenance software assurance.com licensing.
Support.
Second.
There, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Supervisor Burnell. Next up is Supervisor Ferrara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisors appoint Scott King as Director of Public Health.
A lot of seconds there, that's good. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Congratulations. Scott.
Congratulations.
Number 24.
We probably should have done some type of a test to see if he's of sane mind to take the position. But it's coming.
That's the mental health. Number 24.
Okay, Laura Granger be appointed to position of Personnel Officer.
Support.
Support.
Got a lot of support there. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations again. Okay, number 25.
Board of Supervisors approves the reclassification of one full-time principal social welfare examiner and backfill one full-time social welfare examiner.
Support.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next up, number 26.
Board of Supervisors approves the reclassification of one full-time deputy commissioner.
Support.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 27.
Board of Supervisors approves the creation and filling of one full-time employee human resources assistant.
Support.
A second on that. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I thought you were supposed to do something on this.
You got to make a motion.
I would like to amend that motion to send that back to committee.
Okay, so a second on that? Second by who?
Second.
Second by Dave Hayes.
Dave Hayes, okay. Now we'll have discussion on that.
It was me. No.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the issue?
The issue is in the vacancy committee, this was discussed in the vacancy committee. I did not do my due diligence, so I need to do a little bit more homework, looking at the overall cost of the positions. So I apologize. I will do that due diligence, and we'll bring this back to the vacancy committee in 2 weeks, and then to the committee. No other issue than that.
Thanks.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, all those in favor of tabling this or sending it back to committees, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Number 28.
Board of Supervisors approves the filling of one full-time risk manager.
Support.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 29.
Board of Supervisors amends COVID-19 pre-duty screening policy number 510.602.
Support.
Second.
Second there, okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Number 30.
Board of Supervisors approves the reclassification of confidential secretary position to payroll systems technician trainee.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 31.
Board of Supervisors approves the reclassification of payroll system technician position to personnel technician.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. You are finished, Supervisor Farrar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Supervisor Reinhardt, Public Safety, number 32.
Thank you. Board of Supervisors authorizes the purchase of 14 Taser 7 tasers for the Seneca County Sheriff's Office.
Support. Second on that. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 33.
Seneca County Board of Supervisors approves applying for the 2021-2022 Public Safety Answering Point Operations Grant.
Support. Second on that, okay. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number
34.
Board of Supervisors approves applying for the fiscal year 2021-2022 statewide interoperable communications grant.
Support.
Second.
There, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you Supervisor Barnhart. Next up, Public Health Services, number 35, Supervisor Borst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board of Supervisors reappoints Dr. Timothy J. Ryan and Dr. Grace Fryer to the Seneca County Board of Health.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you Supervisor Borst. Next up, Supervisor Barnhart, Planning Development, Agriculture, and Tourism, Resolution number 36.
Appoint John Hunt as Grange representative to the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation Board.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 37.
Appoint Charles Sumner as member at large to the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation Board.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 38.
Appointments to the Region 8 Fish and Wildlife Management Advisory Board.
Support.
Second, any discussion?
I'll just add that this appoints Paul Cronenwetter, Tom Graysick, and William Ryan for 2-year terms.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'll say something, okay. Oh, he recused himself, okay. Well, so noted. Carried. Number 39.
Resolution approving the official undertaking of Public Employees Fidelity Bond for Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council.
Support.
Second there, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 40.
Appoint Karen Thompson to the Seneca County Planning Board.
Support.
Second there, great. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 41.
Appointments to the Seneca County Agriculture Enhancement Board.
Support.
Second. Discussion?
I'll just add that this appoints Doug Fryer and Peter DeClue, and that Supervisor Jeffrey Trout will serve as the representative for this Board of Supervisors.
Okay, very good. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 42.
Board of Supervisors adopt Agriculture Enhancement and Farmland Protection Plan.
Support. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Still going? Boy.
Telling me, boss.
Number 43.
Appoint Michael Reynolds and Jeffrey Trout to the Seneca County Soil and Water Conservation District Board.
Support.
Seconds there. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. One more.
Last one. Number 44, accept New York State CDBG Community Planning Grant for a housing needs assessment.
Support.
Second there. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Supervisor Barnhart. Next up, Supervisor Partee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board of Supervisors approves Seneca County Community Services Board 2022 appointments.
Support.
Okay. Got a second on that? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you, Supervisor Partee. Next up is unfinished business. You got any of that? What? Talking out of school, okay. Okay, next up, new business. What I think we have this resolution, we have Rich Ricky's resolution, so we'll do this first one under new business. And you want to first discuss this before we bring it to the floor? Or you want to have Laura come up and you want to ask questions? Laura, could you come up and, I don't know if this is proper or not, but it'll work out. If you got to make any changes to it. I guess you can fill us in and then open it up for discussion if we need some.
So this policy labeled 510.603 is specifically to help me address the paid COVID leave for county employees. There's been different sources that New York State has their rules about 14 days for the first occurrence. Department of Labor has up to 3 occurrences, and between the CDC guidelines and everything, it was getting a little confusing. So the COVID committee met on February 3rd. We wanted to try and pin down some information that would be helpful, that I could give direction to employees as they were either coming in contact with COVID positive peers, and if they were, if they actually tested positive as well. So the policy basically draws from the information that was from not only the New York State guidelines, but CDC guidelines and the Department of Labor, taking that all into consideration. And it kind of explains the way the process works. I don't know if you want me to get into the weeds with this or not, but I can say that we've vetted this. We have actually a flow chart that kind of explains the way that you can determine, there's a request for COVID leave 19 or COVID-19 leave. Has the employee already had COVID-19 leave? Yes or no? And depending on which way you answer, you follow the pattern down. And it basically kind of walks you through the steps so that we can give clear guidance to employees. And I asked for this specifically because it wasn't clear to me until more recently, until we actually had a chance to sit down and read everything and put a comprehensive flow chart together, as well as a policy. So that's kind of the back history on that. Because I was looking for guidance.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Laura?
Laura, so if for 14 days, right? Where are we coming up? So 14 days on the first occurrence, second occurrence, and third occurrence?
Yeah, so,
where are we coming up with 14 days?
So the New York State guidelines, and Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, but the New York State guidelines initially said back in March 2020 that an employee would have up to 14 days for whether you're quarantined or you're isolated. Quarantining meaning you're exposed to somebody who has tested positive, or isolation is when you actually test positive. So those guidelines have not changed yet, even though the CDC guidelines say 5 days now. At one point it was 10 days and now it's 5. So the way that I understand it, and with talking with the committee, after the first occurrence, and it could have been from March 2020, you know, the first occurrence of you either having to have a mandatory quarantine or mandatory isolation, you would get up to the 14 days, depending on what your isolation or quarantine orders say. It could be up to the 14 days if you are not reacting well.
But now the benchmark has changed drastically, CDC and Seneca County Health Department. So I guess, do we want to put in there 14 days now? It's only a guideline, it's not a mandate, right?
That's a state
guideline.
No, it's a mandate.
Yeah, I believe it is a mandate. So we do have to allow for that. That doesn't mean that they get 14 days. If I've not been exposed and I am in a room with someone that has it and we're in close proximity. I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay.
If I may interject, I think the hang up here is the emergency regulation, correct me if I'm wrong, David, that was passed back in March of 2020, still says 14 days. So we're kind of stuck with 14 days for that first occurrence of when an employee asks for COVID leave time.
Right.
After that, and you're absolutely correct. Now when we issue an isolation order, it is 5 days. It can be extended to 10 if someone's still not feeling well at the end of 5. But that initial isolation order has been reduced from 14 to 10, and it's now 5. But that pesky emergency regulation they passed back in March 2020 still says 14. So we're stuck with, unfortunately, that's not a part, unless I'm wrong, David, but that's not a part we get a choice on the 14 days for that first occurrence.
You the point is you have up to 14 days on a first occurrence.
Correct.
That does not necessarily mean that you will be out on a ordered basis for 14 days.
Correct.
That's how that works.
They have 14 days on the second occurrence?
No.
They do not get 14 days on the second occurrence. They do not, it is based solely on the order status.
And I don't get 14 day, up to 14 days on the third occurrence?
You had
No.
only based upon
The
your
second and
order
third
status.
occurrence are if you test positive and you have to have a verified documentation stating from either a physician, health department, you know, whoever.
So if I'm sorry, Jeff, I got one more question. If, so I called my supervisor at work at the county and said I was at a party and my two friends tested positive. Okay, so I've been exposed. I don't have any symptoms.
Are you vaccinated?
I'm vaccinated and I have my booster shot.
You come to work.
So you can still come.
I come to work, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, and this flow chart basically kind of answers all those different scenarios.
Yeah, this is good. This was, I appreciate, thank you. This was helpful.
Yeah,
Laura,
helpful for me too.
But Laura, even for the first occurrence, wouldn't you have to test, wouldn't the Department of Health or someone have to put you out?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
So-
the orders that tell you.
Right, so we shouldn't, Mike, back to your point, we shouldn't have to worry about someone making it up, because it's got to be an official Department of Health, determination, yes, you're out until whatever, but we don't have to worry about that, correct? It's up to the
Correct.
Department of Health and their determination.
Correct.
Okay.
And likewise, if someone is isolated or back in 2020, they had to quarantine up to the 14 days when COVID was relatively new. A person who now tests positive has to provide the documentation or the proof, basically, that they have that. They get 5 days paid leave. They can request the 5 days COVID leave. Now, if they get a quarantine the third time, they have to use their own leaves, because according to the law or the Department of Labor guidelines that we're following, you have to, the second and third occurrence, you have to test positive in order to be eligible for those 5 days for both occurrences.
Laura.
So if you get a quarantine, you're out of luck.
Laura, I have a couple questions. One, for those that have already taken time or been charged time, if this policy goes into effect, are they going to be able to try to come back and get that time back that they used? That they were charged, I should say. So if an employee had to use 5 sick days or whatever because they were out longer than whatever, would they be entitled to say, well, now that this policy is in place, I want my time credited back? Is that going to be a union issue, I should say?
Well, honestly, I want to try to do the right thing. So if that's something, and I did have somebody pose that question to me, I would certainly look into that. I don't want to do wrong by the employees. I'm trying to do the right thing. And if they were told to use their leaves when they actually did get that positive case, we'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, obviously. And we do have a record of who's used it thus far, going back from March 2020. So we can easily figure out, okay, Susie's done this 4 times now. Sorry.
And I think the hang-up is this 14 days. And what concerns me, listening to what you said, is that if it's kind of at the will of the employee. You mentioned if they're struggling or if they're not doing well, who's going to make that determination? And how is that going to be monitored, enforced? What if an employee, after day 5, feels better, but they're taking their 14 days and they're out doing whatever? Is that now a department head issue where they have to do discipline? Is it subject to discipline? And what is going to happen to these smaller departments within the county that can't afford to have 2 and 3 people out on 14 days? How is that going to manage? And I think of the jail or DMV or some of these places that can't afford to take multiple employees, especially through this contact tracing, that's going to have employees out for repeated amounts of time. How is that going to be handled?
It's a great question.
The best answer you have is mandatory overtime for other people in those departments, and there's no getting around it.
Well, the problem is sometimes you don't have enough people to do that with.
Then they'll have to reach some kind of accommodation. I mean, there are not enough bodies And
That's the
this
point.
is, and that's the way it is. We have to do with the best.
We can't pass a law that's contradictory to state law.
I understand that. I'm just, but
It's
these
going
are
to be,
issues.
hopefully it won't be an issue. I mean, I don't think it was an issue during the height of the pandemic. We got by during the height of the pandemic. I think things are in a better place.
Laura, if I could ask, how is this a departure from current policy? What's different?
So the current policy, well, actually, there is not an actual policy for requesting COVID leave, so this is new. Honestly, I think it was a free-for-all earlier. I mean, I don't think that there was any real clear direction from the state. There was, you know, the CDC had their guidelines. A lot of times we deferred to Scott in his expertise.
So we don't have a policy in place for COVID leave at the moment, and
That's what this is hoping to
no,
do.
I understand.
Yeah, but-
Right.
Okay,
Go ahead, Jeff.
so help me out, because as I read it, it seems to mimic the law.
Yeah.
So I would think, to Mike's question about prior instances, I think, my opinion, they should be credited if in fact the law said they should have gotten that time for New York State paid COVID leave. If the policy mimics the law, why do we need a policy? Why don't we just follow the law? And then any policy would be in addition to the law, after the law. Does that make sense, or?
Can I piggyback on that just real quick? And I maybe direct this to Mr. Ottman, is that if we pass this policy and it leaves in this 14 days, and 10 days from now, the state comes out or the CDC comes out and says, we're now 5 days, but we have a policy that says 14.
Our policy does not say 14 days.
It says no less than 14 days.
At least.
Yeah, so that was my question. It says they shall be provided with at least 14 days of paid COVID.
Because that's what the current law says.
So again, the question, I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to
Yeah, go ahead.
interrupt. The question raises itself that if the law says that, and if we go by what the law says, do we need a policy? And if you say we do, okay. But the question we run into, well, what happens if it changes in 2 weeks?
We have two answers for that. Basically, the purpose of the policy is similar to the state passes a law or the federal government passes a law, and then the executive agency under it passes regulations. The purpose of the regulation is to help interpret the law and apply it to different facts. The purpose here of the policy is that this was to come up with a way that particularly the Human Resources Department could work with department heads and say, this is how it works. And instead of, and I think Supervisor Jeff Trout had pointed out, we have 4 or 5 different sources of information and or the state statute. We have Department of Labor guidance. We have CDC guidance. And so the point here was that Laura was confronted with trying to piece things together when we could come up with an approach. And that's what was discussed at the COVID committee, and then that's what we spent the next 3 or 4 days trying to work with and come down with this. The other part that is important is this was vetted through our labor council, the Romer law firm, and they have done the similar things for several other of their clients and municipalities to try and make it a process so that it can be identified and you can walk through it. And as pointed out, it gives Laura also the basis to go back and look at the places where over the last few months we have made decisions that weren't necessarily in line or could be properly documented. In this way, it gives her a way to do that. So the purpose of the policy is to put a roadmap down to try and put these disparate laws and regulations into one place. The other aspect you look at, we are including within the policy, you'll see the notes on the second page of the agenda, but it says notes to policy. These are going to be included in the policy, and it also notes, that the guidance may change as determined by the board on any new guidelines or interpretations. If something happens to the 2020 law, we can come back, address it, and come back in here without nothing. This is not necessarily written in stone, and that's the advantage to a policy, is that it can get back before you very quickly to address.
So even though it's 5 days, if they're out the first time, we're giving them at least 14 days? Just the way it's written to me is,
Well,
it's saying we're giving them 14 days, even though it's 5. Shouldn't it say up to 14 days?
well, the law itself says
Or at least,
shall be provided with at least 14 days. It doesn't say up to,
They still have to be sick.
yeah.
right?
I mean, that's the whole point. You don't, just because you were identified as a COVID positive and you're sick, symptomatic, you don't automatically, okay, I'm good for 14 days, and almost like a workers' comp thing. Yeah, you're out, and if we see you out deer hunting with your friends when you're supposed to be home with a fever and or whatever, that causes it's an issue. But I think the point of it is you've got a 14-day window on the initial utilization. That's by the statute, and then the guidance comes into effect for basically it goes by your specific health order based upon your testing status.
I should know this, but 14 days, does that count Saturday and Sundays?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. And my second and last question. If this passes tonight, how do you plan to disseminate it to our employees? Through the department heads?
First, I'm going to send it out to department heads, make sure that they understand it, and then I would probably be sending it to all of the employees so that they understand.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, just one last question, and thank you, Mr. Etman, that makes perfect sense. I appreciate that.
What is it? They'll throw me out of the union.
About the last thing.
But Laura, I want to make sure, I thought I heard differently on this. So in the policy number, paragraph 2, it says, sick leave under New York State's COVID-19 sick leave law for more than 3 orders of quarantine or isolation, which is what I think the law is. Mm-hmm. But then on the chart, it says leave 3 or more times. I think you get leave time at the 3rd one. It's the 4th one you don't get it. I think that's, my understanding is that's what the law is. I don't know that that's one part of the flow chart that I don't know is consistent with the paragraph. Does that make sense?
It does.
If you have your leave 3, if you have used your COVID leave 3 or more, are you looking at the left side of the flow chart?
I'm looking at the left side, yes.
Okay. Has the employee had COVID leave 3 or more times? So if they've had their 3rd one, or they got through the system earlier and they've had more, they're in a no COVID leave status.
Okay, so the inconsistency would be, all right, so we have or more times in case someone floated by.
Right.
Oh, gotcha, all right.
Or they could be, it's sort of to take into account, if somebody comes in, have you had it 3 times? I've had it 5 times. Is that the same? I mean, that's.
Okay,
that's
I
why it's
gotcha.
written like that.
I gotcha. Yep, thank you.
Do you think we should change the language or to make it more clear? Or do you
Yeah,
think
now it
it's-
makes more sense to me. Now I'm seeing it through a different set of glasses that, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
The kiss factor never hurts, you know?
We really tried.
Look, I thought you were done.
Okay, we got any more questions? Somebody like to make a motion to put this on the floor for a Rule 29?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Wait, now I gotta have 2/3 vote to say yes to go forward and vote on it, so any more discussion here? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Is that one?
One.
One opposed, okay. I think that's more than 66 2/3%, so I guess the motion is carried, Rule 29, so now we can do it one more time.
I'd like to make a motion, resolution in opposition to Senate Bill 7855 as it relates to the membership of the Board of Directors at the Western Regional Off-Track Betting Corporation.
We still got to approve the other one.
We have to.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta
You gotta do the same thing
We just
twice.
voted to do our.
I wonder where you came up, got that from.
Oh, we could vote on that.
When it gets to that, I'm going to make that resolution.
We can vote on it. That's Rule 29, that's all we read. So I'll second that. Just get that one out of the way.
We'll get that out of the way. I won't make that same mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Again, I want to emphasize microphones.
Mike, you can't hear?
Yes. You're not making fun of the hearing impaired, are you? All right.
Last thing I do.
All right.
Okay, so we're doing the OTB one first.
I don't know what.
I haven't heard.
Don Trout, Supervisor Trout, Don Trout. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Okay, any discussion now on the OTB resolution for Rick? Are you still here? Yep.
He's still here.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Rich, for coming tonight. Good luck. You're gonna need it, maybe. Okay, now we're gonna go start over again on this one here for the COVID leave policy. Are we gonna read that, the title?
Not Mike. Read this one.
I gotta do it again?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let me have your copy, Don. You guys are really. Oh, because it's under Personnel Committee.
Yes.
I'll catch on. That's only my third year. Board of Supervisors adopt the Seneca County COVID-19 paid leave policy for county employees effective immediately.
Support. A motion there, and we got a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
We got two now.
Supervisor Trout and Supervisor Edwin. Both voted yes.
Okay. All those, so noted, it carried, it passes with 2 objections. Before we go any place, Laura, could you come back up for a second?
We bought you a cake.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
If Governor Hochul does away with the mask policy, how do we get rid of our mask policy?
Same way, we'll have to re-meet.
Actually, I think since we're still under their their emergency
Somebody
order.
said we did the resolution a little different way, I don't know.
We did, I think you would be entitled to do that by a emergency order or an executive action.
I could do it
You
then?
could do that to remove it.
Yeah, I think
And it would be-
didn't we give him the authority?
We did, I believe, give the authority to the chairman to do so.
And we'd adjust the policy as needed.
And then you follow up the policy.
So if we're wrong, can you let us know?
Yes.
There's no reason to keep people wearing
I
masks
know,
for 2
I
weeks
know.
or 4 weeks here. They won't be wearing them anyway, probably, so
I know.
we don't want to cause those
Take
problems.
an executive order and then do away with the mask.
Well, I can't do it yet.
That's what she does.
Her powers are a little different.
Yeah, unless Laura tells me differently. We'll expect that,
Okay.
okay? Thank you. Very simple. Anything else going on here tonight?
Did you vote on your OTB resolution?
Yeah, we're asked.
Yeah, we did the rule 29 covers both of them. So they've been both voted on.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carry.